Okay, everyone, we're going to reconvene. Um, During our discussion so far this morning of the America Invents Act, we've had the USPTO and its role come up several times. And we're so fortunate to have with us a representative from the USPTO to discuss the impact of the America Invents Act. Our keynote speaker for today is Hope Shimabuku. Hope is the director of the Texas Regional Office of the USPTO. Hope has over 2 decades of experience as an engineer and IP attorney, including leadership roles at Xerox. She also worked for BlackBerry uh, with respect to their intellectual property endeavors. Hope received her bachelor's in mechanical engineering from the University of Texas. And I'm proud to say she's an alum of the SMU Dedman School of Law. Hope, we're so fortunate and lucky to have you with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Professor Robinson, and thank you for the invitation to participate in this illustrious event. Can you all hear me? Just making sure that you can hear me. Okay. So thank you so much for the invitation to participate in this illustrious IP Symposium and speak to my alma mater. As Professor Robinson mentioned, I am an SMU Dedman School of Law graduate, and it is always great to come back to see and to speak to all of you. Welcome to my current friends in IP and our colleagues, as well as my future IP friends and colleagues that are participating in this conference. I am tremendously honored to be a part of this distinguished line of speakers, in particular being able to follow the Honorable Raymond Chen, and immediately preceding the panel, Chief Judge Gilstrap, Chief Judge Lynn, and Judge Yackel, on this 10th year of the Leahy-Smith America Invents Act, the very act of which forms much of how we practice patent law today, and which ultimately brought me to the USPTO as the director of the Texas Regional Office. After my remarks, I am actually going to open it up for Q&A, so I am happy to answer any of your questions after what I am about to talk about. So nearly 10 years ago, the America Invents Act was signed into law as one of the most sweeping overhauls of our nation's patent system. It brought in the first-to-file system, the creation of the Patent Trial and Appeal Board, and post-grant proceedings, and called for the creation of 3 regional offices. Instead, the USPTO decided to create 4, of which we, Texas, are the beneficiary of 1 such office. However, the story of the patent system that we know today began much longer than 10 years ago, with the ratification of our Constitution in 1789, and shortly thereafter, the Patent Act of 1790 passed by the first Congress. And the story of the Texas inventors, and entrepreneurs for both men and women marked and punctuated history throughout the 1800s, ever since Texas joined the United States. One of the earliest Texas inventors was Elizabeth Stressley, later known as Elizabeth S. Townsend, who moved to Texas as a child. She graduated from Sam Houston Normal Institute in Huntsville, now known as Sam Houston University, and began working in the literary department for the Texas Institution for the Blind in Austin. During her time at the school, she became interested in finding opportunities to make life easier for the blind students. Made of brass and steel and weighing 5 points, with only 3 keys and a spacer that could be operated with one hand, Elizabeth invented a typewriter for the blind called the punctograph. The punctograph could type in both Braille and New York Point, the 2 systems that were used for the blind to read. This typewriter invention comprised a frame and a removably and linearly adjustable die plate having a series of sets of 6 protuberances or points thereon, corresponding to all of the units of a Braille cell. The invention became patent number 443977 in 1889. After receiving her patent, she then became an entrepreneur, heavily marketing her punctograph, eventually selling 12 typewriters to her own school at a cost of $1,000 per machine equivalent today to more than $2,000 each. 3 years later, Elizabeth went on and received a second patent for a separate invention, an improved slate that allowed for blind individuals to read and write using lettered pegs. Steeped in the rich history of inventors and entrepreneurs like Elizabeth Stresley Townsend, it is no wonder that Texas continues to rank second in the number of patents received out of any state in the entire country, was ranked the #1 state for women entrepreneurs in 2019, and is regularly in the top 10 for women-led startups. And Texas continues and is one of 4 states where 42% of all women innovator patentees are located. When the America Invents Act was signed into law in September of 2011, the America's elected representatives understood the importance of having IP specialists work directly with the public on local communities throughout the country. They wanted to broaden the innovation ecosystem beyond our traditional technology hubs and make it easier for our inventors and creators to protect their IP rights. They also wanted stakeholders to be able to access IP resources close to home. And for us, here in Texas, close to home is the Texas Regional Office. For inventors like Elizabeth Stresley Townsend and female entrepreneurs and future inventors, the regional offices provide the basis to enable our ability to expand the innovation landscape. From its beginning to now, the story of the Texas Regional Office is a story made up of dedicated and visionary individuals, those who answer the question, what if? To those who open the doors of the Texas Regional Office, to those individuals and you who have established and shaped this regional office into a vibrant center for innovation and entrepreneurship. The story and inception of the Texas Regional Office began right here in Dallas, Texas, when someone asked, what if? Shortly after the America Invents Act was signed, a legal secretary in the Dallas area first noticed a post from the USPTO soliciting bids to build, at that time, 3 regional offices. For 225 years prior, the USPTO was located near our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., and the regional office concept was a historic and monumental moment for innovators and entrepreneurs to have a part of the innovation ecosystem in their backyard. Cities from all over the country submitted bids, and Dallas was not alone, even in Texas, in trying to secure the coveted regional office. I remember when the Dallas Regional Chamber and all the local regional chambers, the Dallas Bar Association, and many of the other bar associations here, law firms, corporations, including my own, who I was working for, SMU Dedman School of Law, and the entire innovation community banded together, putting our best foot forward to turn what if into reality. And on November 9th, 2015, the Texas Regional Office cut the ribbon, opening its doors in the Terminal Annex building, a historic building located in an area where history was made and a building built on innovation. For those of you who do not know, the Terminal Annex building was originally a $1 million construction project opened as a U.S. post office in 1937. And at that time, it was heralded as the most modern, innovative mail-in postal facility in the country. The building was initially a 3-story building with the capability of adding 2 more stories. And the Texas Regional Office is housed in one of those 2 additional stories on the 5th floor. At one point, plans for a prison capable of housing 500 inmates was part of the plan for the 5th floor, where the USPTO now occupies. We are all grateful that that plan never came to fruition. The Terminal Annex building, and in particular the 5th floor, has always been a part of history, and history has always been made here. Situated right next to Dealey Plaza, key witnesses, including Postmaster Harry D. Holmes, witnessed the assassination of President John F. Kennedy through his binoculars from his 5th floor office. That office is now our large conference room in our facility. Fast forward to today, it is no wonder that the USPTO, the Agency of Innovation, has found a home for the Texas Regional Office in what was founded and built on innovation and has also made history through the fulfillment of the America Invents Act in opening the fourth and final regional office, the Texas Regional Office. And the Texas and Dallas community has welcomed the Texas Regional Office, enabling it to thrive and grow. To date, we have been able to hire more than 140 patent examiners, 22 PTAB judges, and 13 new staff and managers, including myself. Over 20 employees have transferred from headquarters to the Dallas region, and the office is now able to support over 400 USPTO employees located in Texas alone. One of the fundamental goals of the regional office is to provide outreach to our community, providing opportunities for face-to-face conversations with our stakeholders, to provide training and resources to small businesses and entrepreneurs, to provide forums to discuss policy and changes to procedures with medium and large enterprises, to create better tools for universities and their tech transfer offices, to develop relationships with the legal communities, and to create the pipeline for future K-12 students in our community. And the Texas Regional Office, with your help, has been able to hold over 1,200 events and reach more than 80,000 stakeholders in the 5 years since its inception in our region. In Dallas, some of our highlights have included working with you and the Dallas Independent School District to participate in World IP Day and teach over 100 students about intellectual property, to develop an IP of alcohol CLE program held at a brewery, of course, and hosting the Trademark Boot Camp virtually, which included over 1,400 participants online and the first ever live virtual oral TTAB hearings. With SMU Denman School of Law, we've been able to hire fall, spring, and summer externs both in person and virtually, create opportunities for students to be able to fulfill their pro bono requirements, participate in your leadership lecture series with our top leadership, including our immediate past director, Andre Yanku, and current chief PTAB judge, Scott Bullock. Support and work with their patent and small business trademark clinics, hold an IP of fashion program with our trademark commissioner, host various class trips with SMU law students on our campus, and participate in a number of different law school classes, including a class in which my friend Mike Pegues is currently teaching at SMU. Each one of these events and activities have been critical in bringing us together and expanding our innovation ecosystem. Recently, the USPTO set up on its website an Expanding Innovation Hub, focused on expanding the innovation ecosphere demographically, geographically, and economically, with the goal of inspiring more women, minorities, veterans, and those in geographically and socioeconomically diverse areas to join the innovation economy. In 2019, the USPTO issued a report entitled Progress and Potential, a profile of women inventors on U.S. patents with an updated report issued in 2020. In the report, it showed that the female inventor rate or share of unique female inventors out of all the inventors listed on a patent in a given year was around 13%. In 2017, women made up about 52% of the entire workforce and 29% of the science and engineering workforce in the United States. At a 13% female inventor rate, those numbers mean that less than half of the current science and engineering female workforce is patenting. And the numbers for minorities are even lower. Best estimates right now place the number of minorities participating as inventors at around 4%. The USPTO is keenly interested in changing that dynamic. We recently established a National Council for Expanding American Innovation, comprising executives, chief IP counsels, and presidents of companies, nonprofit organizations, and universities. The regional offices, including the Texas Regional Office, has hosted roundtables on best practices and are focusing on outreach in these underrepresented communities. And we need your help. Just as Elizabeth Stresley Townsend asked, what if there was a better tool that would help the blind? Just like you asked, what if we had a regional office in Dallas, I'm asking you, when we're looking at expanding the innovation ecosystem, what if? And then can we transform that to how? And then ultimately to it is. The last 10 years of the America Invents Act has been a fantastic journey, and I am proud to have worked with you to bring about and fulfill it through the Texas Regional Office. I look forward to the next 10 years and beyond working with you, the IP community, along with the SMU Denman School of Law to forge ahead and build a bigger, better, expanded innovation landscape. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hope, for those remarks. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. We have about 15 minutes on our schedule that we can allocate for questions. And so, Hope, I will take moderator's privilege here and ask the first question. So you mentioned
Of course.
one of the new initiatives or recent initiatives at the USPTO is the expansion of innovation. Can you tell us a little bit about you? And you mentioned the roundtables that the regional office has been hosting. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the lessons learned that have been coming out of those roundtables about how we go about expanding our innovation ecosystem?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've sat in on a couple of those roundtables as well, especially the one that I've participated in. And so I think that the questions that we were asking are questions that have been around for a little while. And so the questions that we wanted to understand was, what were the barriers on understanding and why are people not patenting, especially those in the underrepresented groups? So some of the things that we have been learning, some of the things and insights that I've seen are some of the best practices that people have been instituting and corporations have been instituting across the board. Simple things like when an inventor is actually talking about their invention, it is near and dear to their heart. So when they are opening up and presenting their invention to a committee as an invention disclosure committee, it can be a very tough time because they themselves don't want to face rejection. And so taking that and looking at it and being able to set up environments for attorneys or invention disclosure groups to be able to discuss inventions is a key part to making people comfortable to be able to explain their invention and also encouraging them to be able to be inventors in the future. One of the things that we did learn and that we did find in our studies was that those who actually invented one time were much more likely to invent in the future. And so as we're looking at opportunities to put mentors and to put examples before them, people like Elizabeth Stressley that I mentioned in my presentation, making sure that people see them, take them through the different processes and let them know that, hey, this is possible and you can do it too. And we've set up an environment for you to be able to freely share your ideas and to be able to be a part of the system has been a big part of the learnings that we've seen.
Excellent. All right, so we have one question here that's come in. And the question is, how can IP legal professionals assist in the USPTO's goal of increasing the diversity of inventors? So I guess this question is asking, how can patent practitioners contribute to this initiative?
I think that's a great question, and I think that there are a lot of things that we can do. One is, in particular, is be a part of the discussion. Let us know what you think and your experiences, what has been successful for you and what have been the barriers across the board. We're going to be hosting, while I said that we mentioned that we hosted one roundtable already for the Texas Regional Office, we are planning and continuing to anticipate to host those further roundtables, and I would really like our patent practitioners to be a part of that. The other thing is that becoming active and a part of the community of future inventors as well. As you are out there and working with different inventors, make sure that you are there encouraging them, giving them the tools, giving them ideas, whether it's through our students, our K through 12 students, being a part of the pipeline and teaching them on inventions or IP. That is one part of it, but being out there and identifying other inventors in other areas, because science and engineering, while that's the core of where most of the inventions come from, that's not the only area. We need to be broader and look for additional places where you wouldn't traditionally think inventions might be.
Yeah, that's an excellent excellent point actually. So I'm gonna ask if you would look forward to the next 10 years, um, what role do you see the regional offices playing in the next 10 years? And then maybe you could talk more specifically about the Texas regional office as well.
All right. So as we're looking at the next 10 years, so when the regional offices were originally set up, they were set up as a hub and a base for hiring additional technical talent, particularly in our patent examiner core. What we found was that outreach became a core part of the regional offices, and it continues to be a part of the agency and has become a very important part of the agency. As a matter of fact, demand is exceeding what we are able to really handle with respect to the regional offices with respect to outreach. So as we're looking at outreach for the regional offices and the Texas regional offices, I think that as we are moving forward, it will become even larger and we will be a lot more active and participating in our community. What our goal is, or what our vision is at the end of the day, is that when we're doing outreach, that we will be able to deliver an individualized experience. Now, whenever someone comes to the regional offices or even to the PTO, they have their own business, they have a unique invention, and they have individual situations. So we're hoping that there will be a day someday that we can not have a packaged deal in which we're sending out, but that we are reaching out to each and every one of our inventors, meeting their needs, talking to them about their issues, and really discussing different things with them one-on-one. Now, I think that it's going to take a lot for us to do that, and we'll probably have to use some technology tools to help us associate and be able to deliver that. But the regional offices are going to be a big part of that. From a hiring standpoint, I think the regional offices, especially now, with us in a very virtual environment. We were already a nationwide workforce. I think that that is going to become even more so as we continue to diversify and continue to be in different regions geographically. I think that we will be spread out a lot more, and the regional offices will become a hub for those who are close by, who are located physically close by.
So just a quick follow-up on that, and then there's another question that's come in. So do you anticipate that the number of people working in the regional offices will increase to meet the capacity, or are there going to be additional regional offices created, or how do you see the USPTO adapting to meet this demand?
I think that there's going to be more and more people immediately at the regional offices, but again, I think it's going to be a little bit of a mix because we are going to probably be a lot more virtual. We'll have folks who consider the regional office as their duty station or their main point of what we call check-in, but they will probably primarily be associated with whatever location. They'll probably be working from home or wherever they're going to be working at. There will Our hiring is going to be pretty steady, and we are going to be hiring to continually meet our demand. That is always our hiring model. And so we will continue to be hiring in that respect, but the hiring will probably be a lot more expansive and not, for example, at headquarters primarily, or at a certain regional office. I suspect that the hiring will be a lot broader and cover a lot more states. Now for the second, what was the second question? I'm sorry.
I think it was one. Do you anticipate hiring additional people? I think the answer to that is yes. And then I was just wondering whether or not the possibility of additional regional offices is something that you see happening in the future, 10 to 20 years from now.
So that's a really good question, and I think that as demand increases, I think that is. I'm not going to guarantee it. That is a possibility, and so so the question is really: is it strategic for us to do something like that? The American Events Act did allow us to be able to open up to 5 regional offices. So there is one that is left that we could still open under the American Events Act, but I know that for the immediate future right now, we're trying to work with what we have and expand and grow from there.
Great. All right. So there is a question that's come in asking whether you could talk about opportunities for law students to extern or intern at the USPTO. Could you talk a little bit about the opportunities for law students to work with the regional offices?
Absolutely. So, as a matter of fact, we currently have a posting on usajobs.gov. That's actually where we post all of our opportunities. And we are looking to hire law externs, law students who are externs with our office for this summer, actually. And so we have opportunities across the board, not only within the regional offices, but with headquarters as well. And you have opportunities to work with patent examiners, with PTAB judges, with our TTAB judges, with our trademark examining attorneys, and opportunities with working with our international teams and our own internal OGL, our Office of General Counsel. That organization is kind of like an internal in-house counsel for us, because we do have employment issues. We do have a number of other issues that we deal with, and so we do need attorneys that work in those areas. But that group also works with our Department of Justice, and they put together the arguments and the briefs that are supporting the different cases that are going before the Federal Circuit as well as the Supreme Court. So we have opportunities across the board as an extern for this summer and any other future summers that are coming up for you to be able to participate as an SMU law student with our organization. Now, our externships, you have the opportunity to receive class credit, but they are not paid externships. And so, and they typically can last anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. So if you'd like to work for us the entire summer, you have the opportunity to do that as well.
Just a follow-up to that question, since the USPTO is I think one agency that was incredibly prepared for the pandemic, just because of the telework policies that you already had in place. How does that work for these law student opportunities? Are they required to live in the city that of the regional office that they are going to be working for?
That's a great question. And our externship this summer is going to be a virtual externship. And so last summer, we also had a virtual extern program. And what happens is that if you become an extern, then you will be granted access to be able to virtually get into you'll be given a USPTO email, but you'll be given virtual access to be able to VPN into our systems so that you can access your email and other projects and materials that you need to be able to do the work that you're going to be working on. So you don't have to be in Dallas, for example. You could do this anywhere in the country.
Excellent. That's terrific. We have 1 minute left. I wonder if you had any parting words for our law students, especially that are attending. Any advice or ask of our law students here?
So I guess what I would say is that for the law students, capitalize on the opportunities that are close at home. Especially a lot of different cities really wanted the Texas regional office, and I still hear it all the time when I'm traveling and talking to different groups. How come you didn't place a regional office in our location? So capitalize on the resources that are here, on the wonderful professors and the resources that you have at SMU, because they have some fantastic opportunities and they are really a part of the community. And as you are graduating from law school and looking at the future, I would love to have the USPTO be a part of your journey, whether you are just interacting with us, but also hopefully working for us someday in the future as well. So, but other than that, Keith, thank you so much for allowing me to join you on this very auspicious celebration of the American Invents Act. And so thank you.
Oh, Director Shimabuku, thank you for joining us, and thank you for those great remarks. So everyone, we will take a break, and then at 12 o'clock during our lunch hour, we'll reconvene with a very exciting panel featuring 3 district court judges. So please come back around noon for that panel.
Thank you.